Luke 6 marks a pivotal chapter in the Gospel, where Jesus demonstrates his authority over the Sabbath, teaches the principles of discipleship, and challenges the norms of society through radical teachings. The chapter includes the selection of the 12 apostles, the Sermon on the Plain, a parallel to the Sermon on the Mount in Matthew, and various healings and miracles. It highlights the contrast between traditional religious practices and the new kingdom values Jesus brings. In verses 1 through 5, we have dialogue about Jesus and the Sabbath. Here we can see how the Pharisees and Jesus differ on what is important and how religion should apply more to doing what is best for mankind, and not necessarily the rules sacred scripture. In verses 6 through 11, we have the healing of the man with the withered hand. Jesus provides an example on the importance of good deeds, much to the disgust of the Pharisees. This is where the Pharisees have realized that Jesus is their rival rather than their Messiah. Jesus emphasizes that the Sabbath was made for human benefit, not for rigid rules, and he affirms his authority as Lord over the Sabbath. Matthew provides another similar parable in chapter 25 about the sheep and the goats, where he talks about taking care of others. In verses 12 through 16, we have the selection of the 12 apostles. In these verses, Jesus appoints his apostles from his many disciples after a night in prayer, and he then physically removes them to teach them, while all others are wanting to be in his presence. Jesus is already drawing great crowds to witness his wonders. Jesus' intentional selection of the 12 apostles establishes a foundation for his future work and the spread of his kingdom. The role of apostles is essential in God's plan. The number 12 is found throughout the Bible. It represents Jesus' divine authority. In verses 17 through 42, we have the Sermon on the Plain. Much like the Sermon on the Mount in Matthew chapter 5, verses 1 through 7, Jesus reveals how man should live his life and treat others. These blessings reverse the values of the world, focusing on those who are marginalized, suffering, or persecuted. Being wealthy is addressed, as are the consequences. Jesus' kingdom values are upside down from the world's values. True blessedness comes from humility, suffering for righteousness, and seeking God's approval, not human success or material wealth. Love is encouraged, but this time Jesus wants everyone to love their enemies. This teaching challenges the prevailing cultural norms of retaliation and retribution, calling his followers to act in love, grace, and mercy. True discipleship involves loving others unconditionally, even those who treat us poorly. God's love is generous, and we are called to reflect that love in all our relationships. In verses 43 through 45, Jesus talks about hypocrisy. In this parable, Jesus stresses that the condition of one's heart is revealed by their actions and words. Parables are Jesus' most common teaching method. In verses 46 through 49, we hear about the wise and foolish builders. We see again the use of a parable that everyone can relate to. This parable emphasizes the need for a solid foundation, which could be key in all our practices. But it should not be concluded that a solid foundation is enough. It is not, and we must include God and his word to guide us. With God, all things are possible. All things being possible through God is also referenced in Matthew chapter 19, verse 26. There are 5 key themes in Luke chapter 6. First, our kingdom values. Jesus teaches that God's kingdom values are radically different from the world's. The poor, hungry, weeping, and persecuted are blessed, while the rich and comfortable face woe. Jesus' kingdom is about humility, mercy, and self-sacrifice. Second, we have radical love. Jesus calls his followers to love their enemies, forgive those who wrong them, and show kindness even when it's difficult. This love reflects the nature of God's grace. Third is living out Jesus' teachings. Discipleship is about hearing and doing. Jesus emphasizes that true faith is evidenced by living out his commands, particularly in the way we treat others. Fourth is judgment and mercy. Jesus teaches that we should focus on our own hearts before judging others, and he calls for forgiveness, mercy, and grace. Fifth is building on a strong foundation. Obedience to Jesus' words is the foundation for a life that will endure through trials. Luke 6 highlights the radical nature of Jesus' teaching, challenging the religious and social norms of the time. Jesus calls his followers to live according to kingdom values, which often turn the world's values upside down. The chapter teaches that true discipleship involves living out love, mercy, forgiveness, and obedience to Jesus' words. It reminds believers that faith is not just about hearing the message, but but about putting it into practice in everyday life.